Y'all, I was on the internet and I received this video to do a review about. And by the end of the video, I was pretty mad. And here's why I was mad. I value integrity within the farming community. I value integrity when it comes to selling a product to a consumer. And to see a farmer literally and methodically try to explain his product and why it's better than everyone else's product in the most dishonest way and fashion possible, it's not cool. It's not cool. There are some of y'all out here who are looking for clean meat, like clean proteins to feed your family. There are some of y'all who are looking to get into particular breeds, like you're a homesteader, you're a farmer, and you're trying to figure out what's a good breed for you. And so when people put misinformation, intentionally put misinformation on the internet, I get pissed off about it because one, I want you to have, if you're a consumer, I want you to have a good eating experience, right? I don't want you to be disappointed. And if you're a farmer or homesteader, I want you to get a breed that's going to work well for you. But in order to do that, we got to break through the dishonesty. So in this video, we're going to break down this. I don't know if I want to call him a farmer. His video where he compares his pork to two other types of pork. We're going to break down how this is a scam. We're going to break down meat quality, carcass quality, fat quality. We're also going to break down really why it's important to understand how meat works, how a pig functions, so that way you're not swindled. So again, if you're just a consumer and you're looking for clean, good meat, not all farmers can be trusted. Literally, you go to the farmer's market, and nowadays we got farmers who are buying wholesale vegetables and meats from Costco and then repackaging it as their own. That's horrendous. So I want you to be aware in the light, and if you're a homesteader or a farmer, I want you to be able to understand what kind of meat quality you're going to be getting out of this particular breed, which is the English large black, and we will talk more about that in the video. But lastly, for both camps, the important thing is having integrity. I want us to really push for integrity. And part of how we push for integrity is understanding what is true and what's not true. So that's what we're going to do in this video. So I'm going to run through the video, critique it very heavily, and hopefully that works. If you're wondering, like, okay, who are you? How can you speak on this? My name is Farmer Pork Rhyne, the Pork Evangelist. I'm an international agriculture educator and agribusiness consultant, and I've been doing this for a long time. Also, I've actually raised the breed that he's talking about, so I can speak very intimately about how anything this man has said is inaccurate and wrong. Not everything. He sprinkles a little bit of truth in it, but for the most part, the end goal is to be deceptive. So we're going to go over that right now.
Hello from Knife and Fork Farm. The purpose of today's video
is to lie to you. That's the purpose of today's video, is to lie to you.
Is to introduce you to the pork we raise here on Knife and Fork Farm, on pasture and finish in the forest, and compare that product to other pork produced in the marketplace. First of all, we raise large black hogs, which is a heritage breed. It's actually listed as critically endangered. The nice thing about large black hogs and the way we
and that's true. Again, a good lie has truth in it. In fact, a really good lie is like 95% truth and 5% a lie. So he's not wrong with everything he said. Again, I've raised this breed myself. He's completely accurate.
Produce is that hog naturally thrives on pasture. They love to forage. They hate confinement, and they do very well just being natural hogs on savanna pasture or in the woods.
True. Very true.
They're also a very docile hog, which means low stress. And they just enjoy playing, rooting, running around. This affects meat quality.
Now, a lot of pigs are actually docile if they're raised in the right setting. So I don't necessarily agree with that statement, but okay, no big deal. No, again, that's not the problem. He's gonna start being problematic in just a sec.
Quality. The large black hog is known for what's called micro marbling, which is, if you take a look, it's the little specks of fat within the meat.
You will not find micro marbling in a textbook. You will more than likely not find that term on the internet. What he's actually referring to is intramuscular fat, which we call marbling. It's not micro marbling, it's just marbling. So if you look here, marbling's in the actual meat. It's basically grains of fat that are actually inside of the meat. Intermuscular fat is fat around the muscle, right? So there's no micro marbling. It's just marbling. It's just intra fat, intramuscular fat. So again, common mistake. This is not his biggest sin in this video. So let's keep going.
They also have a large fat back, which self-base the product while you're cooking.
True. And y'all, when it comes to pork, part of the reason why people don't like pork is because it tastes flavorless to many people. The issue is people are buying pork that's been raised on modern pig farms, and those breeds they're not designed to be fatty pigs. And even if they have a little bit of fat on them, at the grocery store, we just cut it off. Again, be a pit master, also be a meat cutter at a grocery store. And whenever we got fatty pork, we literally would just cut it off. And we barely left any fat on the pork because that's what a lot of people like. Fat is where the flavor is at. I'll repeat that again. Fat is where the flavor is at. So when you have a piece of meat that doesn't have a lot of fat on it, you have to depend more heavily on seasonings. This is part of the reason why a lot of the modern pork produced on modern pig farms are constantly being smothered in sauces and seasonings. When you have a pig that has enough fat on it, and especially has a variety of diet, especially if they're raised on pasture, the fat quality is so much better. It's something you actually want to eat and taste. So again, he's not wrong for saying that.
They're much slower growers than most typical hogs, so that time is spent actually producing a high quality meat.
True, very true. Large blacks, when I raised them, we raised them for a year. Commercial pigs between 5 to 6 months, and then they're ready for slaughter. For large blacks, they're a year. So again, if you're a farmer and you're thinking about getting English large blacks or large black hogs, that's what we call them in America, just understand it won't be ready very soon. You're going to have to wait a year. And once you wait a year, your pigs are going to be at around 250, maybe like 225, maybe the 250 pounds. So, you're definitely going to have to charge a little bit more just because the grow out's a lot longer. They don't need a lot of grain. Generally, they'll get to a certain weight where they don't need more than 5 pounds of grain a day. You give them any more grain than that, and what typically happens is they just become obese, right? And then you have these huge fat caps right here, these huge fat caps on your pork chops, which a lot of people are just going to cut it off, or the butcher will cut off, and then that's wasted money. So yeah, one thing about large blacks.
We're going to compare that to a Duroc. This Duroc chop is available at a national producer. The reason why Duroc hogs are used is there are a heritage breed hog, and there is a marketplace for more commercially bred hogs. They do have a good meat quality, but why producers like them and why they're much cheaper than a slower growing hog is because, first of all, they're leaner, which produces bigger yields.
I wouldn't say adaptable. Because adaptable is not the right word. They are designed for indoor production. A lot of these commercial hogs primarily raised in modern pig farms, they're bred and designed to be on a formulated diet. They're not necessarily bred and designed to be on a diet that has a lot of variety to it. Also, these animals are bred to be in confinement. They're not bred to be out on pasture. So that's why when a lot of these commercial pigs were bought during the plague that we had back in 2020, the meat processors were shutting down and farmers had a surplus of pigs and other animals. Some farmers, especially like outdoor farmers and homesteaders, thought, I'll just buy from these farms. I'll just buy the pigs alive from these farms. Otherwise, those pigs are going to get euthanized by the modern pig farmers. These people have bought little pink pigs, And yeah, it didn't work out very well for a lot of them. Those pigs were so undesigned for a natural living environment that most of them died. Also, what farmers didn't realize is that they were bringing in diseases that had never existed on their farm. That can be very rampant on a modern pig farm. The pigs that are produced in modern pig farms are a lot more fragile. That's why they literally need a climate controlled environment. If they were put outside on pasture, most of them would not make it. He's not wrong in saying that.
And they're very easy to obtain as far as breeding stock. So there's a definite difference in how quickly they grow and the yield on the product. It doesn't necessarily make it better pork, but that's why they're commercially available at a much cheaper product. When you're looking for high quality,
All right. Here are where the lies begin. So again, with a good setup, you always got to, with a good lie, you got to set up with the foundation of truth. So everything that he spoke for the most part was above grade, a couple of errors here and there, but this is where he starts being a fraud. I want you to just use your eyes. Just use your eyes. What do you notice different? So things that we can see that are different about these two cuts. Two differences we see. Coloration. His pork is a little bit more on the redder side than the pork chop on the right side. Okay, cool. Muscling difference. There's more muscling in his pork chop than the other guy's pork chop, whoever the other guy is. Another thing is his pork chop has less fat than the other guy's pork chop. Okay. So again, I want you to use your eyes. Let's talk about coloration. As someone who has worked with meat for many of years, I can tell you that the reason why his meat is redder than the pork on the left side or right side is literally it's just blood. It's just blood stains. That's literally it. If I got a warm, wet paper towel and I wiped that pork chop off, it would look like the other pork chop in terms of coloration. So that's one thing. That's just blood. That's literally just blood. Meat that looks redder we tend to psychologically think that's healthier. So again, that's just blood. The reason why his pig has less fat than the other pig, I want you to look. I don't know if you can see my mouse, but I want you to look at the other guy's pork chop. It's got a lot of fat on it. I want you to see something at the very end of it though. At the very end of that fat, you'll see this like brown layer on the fat. And if you look really closely, if you got really good vision, you can see that brown layer go all the way along the back. That's called the skin. Basically, this pork chop has not been trimmed at all. And that's how most pork chops will look. Some look better than others, but before a butcher or a meat processor trims the skin, they usually will trim the fat off of it, including the skin. This is untrimmed. Now, I want you to look at his pork chop. Again, I think both these pork chops came from him. I genuinely believe that. His pork chop, you can literally see where the little angular marks, where someone had a blade and cut off the back, that extra back fat where the skin would have been on it. They literally cut off. You can even look at the side base of the fat cap, and literally see serrated edges and jagged edges from when someone cut it. He's lying. He is, again, either he's an idiot or he is actively deceiving you. And this is important because if you're a customer, most customers, not all, like I love eating fat. I would not be repulsed if I saw a fat cap that big from the pig on the left. Reason why is I know I could just cut off the fat cap, that excess fat, and then use it for literally anything else. In fact, I'll eat it with some sauteed vegetables and call it a day, and it will be delicious. But most consumers don't like a lot of fat on their pork or meat in general. With that being said, if you're a customer, you might be like, oh, definitely would pick the one with less fat on it. Just, I want you to understand, the butcher will cut the fat off if the farmer asks for it. This piece of meat that he's claiming is his, it got the fat cut off of it. So, that's not nice. That's not honest on his part. Another thing, this is the biggest issue that I have with his lies, is that he's comparing two different cuts of meat. Now, you might say, pork rind, they're both pork chops. And here's the thing we need to understand about carcass quality and carcass placement. A pork chop comes from the back of the pig. Now, as you go further away from the shoulder of the pig, the eye of the loin, which is that little, if you look on the pork chop on the left, it's that little centerpiece of meat, right? We call that the eye of the loin. The eye of the loin gets smaller and smaller as you go further away from the shoulder of the pig and closer to the actual tenderloins and the hams. The chop that he is showing that's representing his farm is probably the closest chop you can get to the shoulder of the pig. In fact, I honestly would not be surprised if that is actually cutting into the shoulder of the pig, quite frankly. But this kind of chop, that's the closest you can get to the shoulder of the pig. So the shoulder of the pig, a lot of muscle, a lot of activity going on. It's going to develop. It needs to have more muscle because, again, it uses its legs for walking. So it needs more muscles versus the back. We have more muscles in our shoulders and the arms and for humans our pecs than we do our actual back, our actual loins. This guy is basically he's not using a fair comparison. So he's trying to demonstrate how his pork is so much better when really he's using a separate cut. It's not the same cut. Yes, it's a pork chop, but this pork chop is cut way closer to the shoulder, whereas in the pork chop from the other guy, the one that was raised on feed, is actually from the lower part of the back of the loin. This is why I don't like people. That's why I don't like people. If you're a homesteader or farmer and you're considering large blacks, know that you can get both cuts. You can get both types of things. Again, really is going to depend on where these cuts are coming from along the pig's loin. The closer it is to the shoulder, the more muscling you're going to see. The further away it is from the shoulder, the less muscling you'll see, right? So you can get the best of both worlds, the best of these two on the screen from the same pig. Now, you're going to get less of the one on the left, the one that he's claiming is his, than you are going to get the ones on the right from the other guy. The reason why is most of the pig's loin is not near the shoulder. This is what most of your large black pork chops are going to look like. They're going to look like the one on the right. And so just understand that it's a lard pig. It's not just simply a heritage breed pig. English large blacks are a lard pig. Lard. So again, if you want a pig that has a lot of lard on it, cool, great. English large blacks are definitely something you can consider. But if you're very hesitant about raising a pig that you want to raise for a year and you're going to have to feed it grain, and again, if you're farming this pig, no more than 5 pounds of feed a day per pig. This pig it might be a disappointment to you if you're going to get a lot of fat. I know people who use the fat to make soaps, salves, skincare products, and some other type of niche products, but mostly skincare products. And they make pretty good money with value-added processing. Because if you try to sell the lard by itself, you're not going to make as much money as if you actually sold the lard in a value-added product. I even have one friend, she infused her lard with CBD oil from hemp. So she sells that, and that makes more money than the actual pork. Go figure. So just keep that in mind when you're thinking about raising this breed as a farmer or a homesteader. And then also think, if you're a consumer, just don't let these people scam you. Again, understanding the carcass quality really will help you not being scammed. I promise you.
This hog was processed at about 245 pounds, and this was closer to 300. If you notice the meat quality also, the one raised on pasture is much darker. This almost looks like a ribeye.
Yeah. Again, this again, it's closer to more active muscles. You're going to see more dark coloration. Part of the reason why you're going to see more dark coloration is because there's more oxygen that's flowing through that area, and that's required for that area. Not a lot of movement is happening in the back, but a lot of movement is happening in the arms and shoulders, right? And so there's more blood flow that's going to happen, especially since these pigs are raised on pasture. They're going to be even more active than a commercial pig would be.
Ribeye steak with darker meat compared to a much paler meat.
Again, he's lying. The reason why that one's paler is because it's further away from the back. Less activity going on, therefore it's paler. If you get his pork products and you get a chop that's further from the back, it's going to look the exact same. It's literally going to look the exact same. So yeah, don't listen to this guy.
When you're passionate about the foods you eat, taste is always king. At Knife and Fork Farm, we have that great meat to fat ratio, which is more satisfying. It produces tender meat, flavorful meat, and fat, and is more forgiving when you cook. Not only is it tastier, but it's also more nutritious. We have higher levels of omega-3s, higher level.
So here's the moral of the story. Not everyone who is farming is going to have integrity. Now, here's what I will say. Most farmers are not going to try to scam you and deceive you with them versus they product placements and stuff like that. Most farmers are going to be genuine, honest about their products and how they grow things out. So if you're a customer, have hope. Most farmers are not out here to scam you. I think this is why it's important to have just a little bit of understanding about carcass quality and a little understanding about meat science, because then you don't get put into the gimmicks and the hype. He was pulling a gimmick, and he was just flat out lying. So with a little bit of understanding, with a little wisdom, without the hogwash, you're able to really see what the farmer's intentions are. And again, if you're a homesteader or a farmer and you're considering raising breeds, be careful who you listen to. There are a lot of people on the internet, especially YouTube, who don't know what they're talking about, who raise certain breeds and, oh, this is the best breed ever. Talking about you IPP folk. And the reality is, no, this breed has a lot of liabilities to it, but they don't talk about that because they're just trying to create content, because they're just trying to get your likes and views and make money off YouTube. And for some of them, they're actually breeding these inferior breeds and trying to sell them to you without ever talking about whether or not that breed's a good fit for you. So again, if buyer beware, don't trust anybody on face value. Ask intelligible questions, have some understanding yourself before you even ask questions, to just see whether or not someone's going to be honest with you or deceitful. So again, let's practice wisdom without the hogwash. That's my tagline, that's my motto. And I promise you, you're not going to run into the same mistakes and the same swindlers that you would if you didn't have the wisdom to navigate situations. So hopefully that helps. I'll try to do more content like this if this interests y'all. And hopefully we don't have any more people putting out false information on the internet. But if we do, rest assured, I will find you. And I know that this community will definitely send me links. That way I can talk about you. Anyways, hope you have a good, safe one. And I'll see y'all next time. See you.